It's time for Sustainable Living Made Easy with Glenn Baldwitz, the show that gives you helpful advice on how to live more independently. Now, here's your host, Janet Rose.
Well, hello and welcome to today's show. We're glad you're here, and we're really glad to those of you who have been reaching out in a multitude of ways. Let's start out by telling you how to do that. Our text number is 434-248-0704. And you can also join our group on Facebook and ask a lot of questions that way. Today's show was kind of born out of that.
It certainly was. We had a listener wanted to know how they could take a planting pot that she had, but get more out of it. It was a large enough pot that she thought she could layer it in.
And that's a thing. Gardening is a thing.
And it's no different than we take a large garden and plant corn, and then you would squash and your beans, so you're putting them all together, the three sisters. Well, you can do pretty much the same thing with a large pot. You can have taller plants to the back, and they can either climb up that plant or have a trellis with it. So you can use that pot in a multitude of ways. And if that's all the room you have, then that's what you do.
And we're going to be talking about that with today's show, because we do have quite a few ladies. Some of them are widow ladies. And we talk about, now, how big is your garden? You have a big garden.
It's 5 of them.
5 of them.
Yeah, and they're anywhere from 50 feet wide and 100 feet long.
Wow.
To just 25 by 50s.
Right.
And, we've got a couple they're actually the back to Eden. My wife claims it because it's the easiest.
Right, exactly.
That's a 5-minute weeding project for her.
And that's the kind, I've got like a raised bed garden, and so mine's pretty easy to take care of because, we both work full time and we do what we can do. But there are a lot of people out there who don't have that kind of room, and they, don't have that kind of time, but they want to be able to grow some of their own foods. And you can do that even if you have a small place. I had a garden on the rooftop when I lived in downtown Lynchburg. I just had these giant pots. My dad helped me, and he filled them up, and I grew everything I needed.
Urban gardening has taken over a lot of empty lots in the cities and things because people want this. They go to the local market and they go, well, I can do what they're doing, and there's an empty lot. And there's some inventive people that have taken those lots and gone to the city and says, I want to use this lot and clean it all up. And the city says, great. And that's what you're doing. Same way with the rooftops.
And with the prices of food the way it is, we're all going to have to start thinking this way to some degree. So don't think that just because you don't have a lot of room that you can't garden, because you can. And Glenn's going to talk about that right now.
Well, one of the most popular ones you'll hear is square foot gardening. And that is just a small raised bed, maybe a 4x4 raised bed that they've broken out into smaller lots. So you end up with 16 1-foot blocks. Each one of the blocks is going to contain some type of vegetable that they like. Obviously, you can't plant a giant squash plant in a 1 square block, but they're after the lettuces and the radishes and that kind of things, and red beets. They can all be done that way because it's a smaller, denser area, easy to take care of, easy to weed. But they're not using garden soils, they're using, because it's small,
right,
using potting soil that doesn't have the weed seeds already in it. It's very light and airy, and it grows very well. So, and the only thing that they're put in there is maybe some amendments, some little bit of fertilizers, if needed. A lot of the potting soils come already with.
What about your
release
microbes and things that you talk about?
Well, you can actually purchase a bag of microbes and add it to the soil. Once you put the plants in there, now they can feed off of the root of your plants, and I don't mean in a destructive manner, actually in a symbiotic and helpful manner. So there's all kinds of things you can do to that soil, and I'm starting to see soils that already have microbes in them.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing. Now, when you're talking about, you were saying you can't You can't grow everything. You kind of have to prioritize things. But we did a story this week on the morning show, and we talked about the cancer-fighting foods that are out there. And I dare say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you will, that a lot of these cancer-fighting foods you can grow in a small space. One of the top ones is tomatoes. You can grow a tomato just about anywhere.
Correct. If you only have just a planter, that's it.
Sure.
I mean, that's all you have. If you were to put some stakes up and continually tying it up, it can go up 6-7 feet tall and out of a pot. Now, there's enough dirt there. Make sure you have enough dirt for its root and that kind of thing. But it'll hold itself in place, and you've taken a very small footprint and went vertical with it.
Right.
So you're doing vertical gardening, which is another technique.
Sure.
And there's so many things that you can do just with the limited space, and that's what we're talking about. I realize not everybody has an acre garden or a farm. So
but if you prioritize those things with your health, so tomatoes were really important. In the top 5, the leafy greens, your spinach, your kale, your romaine, your broccoli, turnips, collard greens, cancer-fighting, nutrition-packed foods, and can all be grown.
Absolutely. Some of the kale is purple, and it's real curly. It has these wild-looking textures. There's all kinds of things. So they look good.
And they're filled with nutrition.
They're some of the most nutritious things you can eat.
Right. And the one that was number 2 on the list, and I'll confess I don't eat them like I should, is sprouts. That's the number 2 cancer-fighting food that you can consume is sprouts. So like broccoli sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, things of that nature, eaten raw. So you would put them on. Broccoli sprouts can reduce the chance of cancer by 50%, according to studies.
Well, here's the deal on all the sprouting. When you eat just a seed, whether it's corn or some other seed crop, you're only going to get about 40% of the nutrients out of it because it's locked up chemically in carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So when you sprout it, nature's designed that to have all the nutrients available for the root system and the first couple leaves. So it's extremely important that all the nutrients that are stored in the seed are immediately available to make that plant continue to grow. Now, I would call that a grand design.
Right, exactly.
So when you eat the sprout, it's totally available to you. And that's why the daggone crows come in when I plant my corn. They don't go after the seed. They wait till it pops up out of the ground. They know that that's the most nutritious time for
that they can get.
And they get it all. And they'll walk right down your row. But I have to dispatch a few once in a while.
Every now and then. We'll share some, but not too much. But I do think it's encouraging that when you start looking at the most nutritious, nutrient-dense, cancer-fighting foods, they are things that can be fairly easily grown, even in a small footprint.
And they're pretty tough. A lot of the cold crops are what you've just mentioned. So you get 2 plantings out of that. You get the spring planting while it's cool, and then the fall planting while it's cool, and then your summer crops can be grown in their place. So when your spinach starts to not produce as well, pull it up, plant something else,
right?
And off you go. And so you're having this rotational crop, and everything's adding to the soil or taking away from the soil. So if you've planted beans in behind one crop, the beans are going to add nitrogen to the soil, which another crop may have taken out. So that's the companion planting. So you can continually not wear your soil out. Adding amendments, adding compost is an extremely good way to do it.
The other thing that I think is interesting is the landscape gardening. There are a lot of things that you can work in, even to your flower beds, and they also look beautiful, but you're eating as well. Right. Rainbow chard, I think, is one of the prettiest things that you can, I think it's beautiful when you grow it.
I mean, it'll have reds, yellow, purples, and all kinds of stuff. There's kales that are multicolored, purple on the outside and almost white on the inside, just snow white.
Yeah. and it looks beautiful in your garden, and it's going to feed your family too. Now, I will say this. I did plant the rainbow chard in my flower beds last year. Got it beautiful. I was just about ready to harvest it when apparently the deer also think rainbow chard is delicious, and they also know when it's ready. Mowed me down. Just took it all.
Animals can pick up smells that have to do with nutrients. Cattle are the same way. They'll go through and eat the best out of the field and then move on. It's called 50-50 grazing, and they'll leave a bunch of the same kind of clover behind, but one had more nutrients than the other, and they'll eat the one that had the most nutrition that they could smell. I mean, all these are designed into the animals, designed into the plants, so they're all using it. We don't have that ability to smell it. We just have to learn it, know it, and grow it.
So you were talking about the square foot gardening. Now, obviously, one of the benefits of square foot gardening is you're going to be able to grow a lot of food in a pretty small amount of space. What's the downside to it? Or is there a downside to it?
There is. It's an initial investment of time in building this thing. You know, a little 4x4 box, like a raised bed would be. They can be 6 inches or 12 inches deep, depending on how much lumber you got and how much you want to invest into it. Obviously, if it's only 6 inches deep, you're not going to be able to grow deep-rooted crops like a long carrot variety. You would have to build it up some more. And
I mean, our beds are made with the corrugated steel. That's why our beds are made out of.
Whatever you can free cycle. I mean,
right.
A couple pallets, they got nice flat boards on them. Just disassemble them, put them back together, and there you are. But
you can go on Pinterest and get all kinds of ideas on what people have done. I mean, I've seen people take giant truck tires and they've, put those in and they've filled them and plant. I mean, it's crazy.
It's whatever you can find.
Right.
That you says, that looks pretty good, I'll use it. So there is a cost associated with filling it with dirt. Now, you don't want to take garden soil out of your garden because it has a finer texture. Watering will cause it to compact. I mean, it's not that you're walking on it. It's just there's a graduation of naturally broken down materials in there that will end up compacting. You'll have to get in there and double dig it with a shovel or a little rototiller. They make them little rototillers for that. So the best thing to do is just buy some really good potting soils and make a mix. And there's all kinds, depending on what you want to grow, what kind of mix you're going to get. So, and that way you're not starting out with any weed seeds.
Right. Because that can be a problem.
I don't know of anybody that has an absolutely weed-free garden.
Right.
I don't think there's
I
such
don't.
a thing. Ours is very low weeds, but just because we don't ever put like cow manure in there that has not been decomposted fully on a hot decomposition, because that kills all the seeds. Because you'll end up with all that stuff that cow ate in that field.
Or horse or whatever it is that you're using.
Horse
Chicken.
is another one. I mean, they're eating hay and in one end down at the other, so there you are. So
we got all that to think about. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation, this time with raised beds and container gardening. Glenn's going to tell us all about it when we return to Sustainable Living with Glenn Baublitz.
If you have a question for Glenn, you can text it 434-248-0704, or you can join our group on Facebook by searching for Sustainable Living Made Easy.
Well, welcome back. We're talking about gardening in limited space. There's a lot of folks out there who I've heard people say, I just don't have the room to have a garden. I just can't have a garden. And that's just simply not true. I mean, I've lived in an apartment and I've had a garden.
Well,
to a certain degree. I mean, you can't have a huge garden, but you can do container gardens, most certainly.
Absolutely. Most people that say that have never been shown some of the options. I mean,
Right.
you could actually do a
They
raised
think
bed.
traditional garden.
Right, you
yeah.
could do a raised bed right on a slab of concrete if you needed to.
Sure.
And they do that all the time in these urban gardens
Mm-hmm.
in the inner cities. You know, that's exactly what they're doing, taking asphalt parking lots,
Right.
throwing down a weed mat and building on top of them. You can do all these things. Now, the idea of the raised bed garden is to get a lot of good soil in a spot that it's not going to work the fire out of you. And the best way to do that is to set up a 4x8 bed. Now, why 4x8? Because you can use 3 boards that are 8 feet long to create it. There's no waste. You know, it's all about, cost here,
Right.
cost and efficiency.
Being smart.
But you can take these raised beds and just keep adding on the next one, the next one, the next one. And you should really keep about 2 foot between the beds. And why is that? Well, so you can get down on
Maneuver.
get down on your knees. While you're there, you might as well throw in a little prayer on your garden. But it gives you enough room to maneuver around. It gives you enough room to bring in a wheelbarrow to harvest all that good stuff.
And that's what we did. We had to
Right.
have, as long as our little garden cart could get through it. You definitely want to think ahead about things like that.
Right, and some people will mulch that area too. Now, if you have really bad soils or even contaminated soils, or you're doing it on asphalt, whatever it is, but if you have afraid of weeds coming up through and getting into your bed, you can lay down newspaper or cardboard. Now, both of those will eventually rot away. Now, what you're going to do is have 6 inches of soil, and it's more than likely that no plant's coming up through that 6 inches of soil because it's pushing it down. It's been depressed. It's keeping the temperatures down. All those things will keep those unwanted plants in the old soil. So the cardboard and the newspaper are basically a temporary barrier until you get all these roots going in your garden, and they'll take over. The roots that you put in, let's say you have a 6-inch garden, and if it's just a strawberry patch, we've got one of those. So those root systems are only going to need to go down about 6 inches, but they go a little wider. So 6 inches is fine for strawberries, but if you're going to do carrots, anything with a taproot, squash, that kind of stuff, they need to be a little deeper. So what are the cons of that? Well, the same as square foot gardening. You know, it's a little higher initial cost. There's some labor involved. So you want to keep that in mind. But the benefits, very little weeds. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to tell you, if you
That's a blessing.
if you can start out without a headache, you'll end up that way. But if you start out with some soil that you just dug out of the woods there, you're inviting trouble.
Right.
So plan your beds out really well. Understand that some things are taller than others. So your corn, if you can actually grow corn in a raised bed too. Most people would not. But
Right.
It's a real good place to, if it's on the back fence, to grow the corn there and your beans. Now you don't have to build a trellis for the beans.
Nice. See, that's so smart.
Speaking of trellises, bamboo. All around Lynchburg, there's bamboo. This stuff grows.
Invasive, yeah.
Now, I wouldn't recommend planting that stuff unless you've got a
Nobody.
place that you don't ever want to visit.
And that
again.
includes tossing that little dinky money plant bamboo thing that you had inside your house. That will
Yes.
take over, and that'll grow too.
But these people will let
Speak from
you
experience.
harvest all you want, and
Yeah.
it's a very good construction item. I mean, the Asians have been using bamboo for a couple thousand
Sure.
years, and there's so many uses for it. But
Right.
trellises is one of them. You can even just do it just a square frame and hang these nettings on it. It's like a 4x4, looks kind of like a wire net. I mean, it's just a cloth or nylon net. And that allows things to grow up, your peas and beans and limas and all those. And that's saving your horizontal space by taking it vertical. So that's the idea of all these raised beds is small, limited space that you can use to grow a lot of food.
Mm-hmm.
And year after year, you can add another bed.
And if people, if you feel overwhelmed, I'd mentioned Pinterest a little while ago. If you're new to gardening, there are so many things out there that will help you. For example, if you do the square foot gardening, there are layouts out there that will tell you, in this square, do this in the spring, do this in the summer. It will say put radishes here, then replace it with peppers. Start with lettuce here, then go to tomatoes. I mean, it makes it simple and not so overwhelming.
There's a calculator.
Really?
A square foot garden calculator. Yep. And you just say how big your square foot garden's going to be, and it'll tell you what to put in, just as you said, your planting times, all that kind of stuff. You just print it right out, and you just tack it up on the garage wall, and there you go.
We need to put that up on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I think a good link for that would do well.
Would be beneficial.
All these things you can't remember it all. There's no way you can remember when everything is planted. It's just too much, too many varieties. So moving on to container gardening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is going to be for people who just absolutely don't have the time to do it, and all they have is sit down in the evening for 10 minutes,
Or you might just have a patio to work with or a rooftop to work with.
Right. You may be on the third floor in an apartment, and that's where you live, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you have that space. If the sun can come out and hit that patio, you're in good shape. And if it doesn't, get things that are shade loving. Not everything needs
bright sunlight.
Direct 100-degree sunlight. It is not. So if you got one that's got a little bit of sunshine, you get you some containers. Now, what kind of containers? There's a blue million of them.
Right.
You can start out with hanging baskets. That's another form of using vertical space.
Yeah,
that's
expanding
not in your
you can double your space literally.
Right. And that kind of stuff sometimes those patios are just too hot. It shines in. It's just too hot to sit out there. Well, if you've got hanging pots there, that's kind of like a shade cloth.
Right.
And they'll do the shading for you. So hanging baskets of all types. The window boxes. There's always a railing if you're on a patio like that. Law requires it. You might as well use it.
Yeah.
They just hang right over the edge. Doesn't take any of your walking space because it's on the outside. But you do have to ask permission.
And I've even seen people double those. They put one on the inside and one on the outside.
Like a saddle.
Yeah. Yep. Just like a saddle.
So, we're just trying to use up the best space that we have and get the most out of it.
Now, let me ask you this. You mentioned that for a lot of people, they'll use like potting soil and things like that when they do this.
Right.
But when you've got containers, you've really got to worry about that water evaporating out of there. Some potting soils, they don't hold water very well.
Right. Water will be held better by something that has humus to it. The compost. If you buy compost soils, those are excuse me, kind of wet when you start out.
Right.
You open the bag and it's all wet. The other ones that have a lot of vermiculite and sphagnum in them, they drain real well.
And sometimes too well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you may have to mix a little bit of compost in there to give it that ability to hold the water for you. And there's a lot of people in these farm stores or greenhouses. They'll help you out and glad you go, this is what I want to do. But
right.
What should I get? And they'll tell you, make this mix or make that mix. If you don't want to do that, just get online. My gosh, there's so much information out there now that didn't used to be there.
That's right. You used to have
to
buy
videos.
books.
There's videos out the wazoo. Just start looking at them and learning what you need to do to get that garden going.
Mm-hmm.
Different types of plastic pots. They all should have drainage because plastic does not wick the water, obviously. So,
right.
If I was going to do a pot, I'd put a little gravel in the bottom to make sure it drained. I'd make sure it has good drained holes in them. Some of them don't.
No, you got to punch them out.
Yeah, they're just pretty little pots, but you look in the bottom and there's no hole, but there's a place to punch the hole out.
Yeah.
So just, take a little screwdriver,
gotta
knock
do
it
it.
out. You got to do it.
And here's a tip: do it before you put the soil in.
Good
She
tip.
says with experience.
Yeah. All right, so plastic pots come in any kind of shape. You can get the greenhouse pots, just black pots
Sure.
of any size or
Nothing
shape.
sexy. Yep.
Just, how big do you want it? What do you want to grow? And that's what you get. And a little deeper pot gives you a little more soil, a little more ability to grow some deeper rooted crops, tomatoes and that kind of thing. You can even do squash. And we were talking about vertical squash. People probably have never seen that, but there's a trend to this square foot gardening. So they've taken a squash plant and made it go vertical.
Right.
Well, it's a vining plant, so it will go vertical. You just have to help it. It's kind of heavy. So you're going to have to get those clips or ties or even strips of cloth. You need something to tie it to, a little trellis, a little piece of bamboo, whatever it is get that thing going straight up. Now, you can't let it go horizontal with lateral shoots, or to just pull it over. So you have to trim some of them off.
So do you do that because they're hollow? Or you don't let it get that big?
No,
Yeah.
As it grows, you may have to add extra ties onto it.
Yeah.
But it will stiffen up and get kind of woody at the base.
Right,
As it gets
right.
by the time it's 3 foot tall, it's kind of woody at the base
Right.
and trying to hold itself up.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have to tie it. You'll definitely have to tie it up, and
Yeah.
and your little triangle trellis or TP, however you want to do it, has got to be stout enough to hold all that. You get 6 squash on there, you've got some weight.
Yeah.
You can't let them get 2 foot long. You know how squash will grow.
Oh, I know. Overnight.
Turn your back on it, and the thing's 3 feet long. So you will have to do that. Same way with watering. Get a couple hot, dry days. The humidity in the air, if it's very dry, will just absolutely evaporate more water than what you thought. So you have to have enough water volume in your soil and your ability to hold that water. So your plant's going to look kind of weak and wilty and
Right.
stressed out. You don't want your plants to be stressing out because they just won't produce as well.
What are your thoughts on like the planting bags? A lot of those are very popular now. You can do the potatoes, and then you can open up at the bottom and you can pull the potatoes out. Do you think much about those?
Absolutely. And the thing about those is there's a lot more variety of those, a lot more styles of those.
And they do last because we use them, and you got to take care of them. You can't just leave them out and let them weather.
Sure.
The sun will be hard on them, but they can last you several years.
The thing about the fabric bags and even just pots or anything, if you have a black pot, obviously it's going to pull some heat.
That heat, yeah.
But the bags or these fabric cloth bags, it's actually a plastic, but they look kind of fuzzy and they wick water.
Yeah.
Now that's good and bad.
Right.
They keep your plant from overheating, but they also allow to lose more water.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to water them. That's about the only con I see to the bag type. The wall hanging ones, they talk about inverted and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
No, it's not. You're just poking a hole in a bag that's hanging there,
Right.
and it naturally just droops down. Gravity's going to pull it down. It would do the same thing on the ground, but
I find those work nice for herbs. Those work really well. The wall ones work well for growing a variety of herbs.
that's actually called Mers Verde, which means green wall.
Fancy.
Yeah, fancy.
I
See,
love
you
it.
didn't know you were that
I had
hoity-toity,
I had
did
no
you?
idea. I'm so
Yeah.
much fancier than I
Mers
thought I was.
Verde, yeah.
Well, the whole reason this conversation got started was because you reached out and you asked a question, and that's what we want you to do. Our text number is 434-248-0704. You can also go on Facebook and look up Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, and you can ask questions that way. This particular subject got started from a lady who is a widow, and really was talking about, I don't know what I can do as a single lady, older lady. Well, let me tell you, there is a lot that you can do.
Sure.
And one of the things that you can do is if you're a member of a church or a club locally, you can do your part to encourage that church, that club, to start a community garden. That's how you can leverage some of your influence.
We talk a lot about that.
We do.
The community effort, and our little homestead group, it does this a lot. If one person is really good at it or has equipment or whatever their skill level is, working together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you get 3 people that can do a job, it's much easier than each person doing and duplicating all the jobs. So I encourage you to, if somebody's got a garden, put the time in to help them. I don't know a gardener out there that wouldn't share in the bounty of a garden if they didn't have to do all the weeding.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come over and show them some of the techniques that we've talked about, that they don't have to do the weeding, and you don't have to do the weeding. Now you have more time for other things in the garden, like canning all together. Everybody getting together and doing a little canning session.
Well, and let me just say this: if you are a Christian woman, in Titus 2, it tells us that it's our job to train up young women and to train them up in very practical ways. What better way to train up and encourage than to start something like this?
Absolutely.
Young mothers, young children, it could be so good for your church. And if there is something that I could do or Glenn could do to help you get that started, we'll help get that party started.
Absolutely. Most time it's just an information gap. How do we do this?
Right.
All you need is somebody to get you going in the right direction, keep you from going afoul of it.
Right.
And
you're off.
Do very well.
You got any classes coming up in the near future?
Well, we sure do. Coincidentally, the Homestead class is putting on an electric class, and this is not your typical just electric class. We're going to talk about how solar works.
Oh.
Because that's the subject for us homesteaders. We're putting solar together for radio purposes, for a secondary source of energy. We're putting the solar.
Now, when is that?
This will be the 17th, which is a Sunday after church, 1 to 4. We're going to have 3 classes. The electrical class will also cover hooking up a generator.
Okay.
With all the talk about grid going down, that's on our minds. So you have to need to know how to do it properly and safety and all that kind of stuff. These are all things you must know. Most people have no idea what's behind that panel door in your house. They see the big gray panel door, they open it up, see breaker handles, and that's it. What's behind there? Because that's where you're going to have to tie some of this stuff in, possibly. Something goes wrong, you need to be able to fix it, possibly. Switches, lights, receptacles. That's the things that go out in your house, 3-way switches. You can't believe how many people just have no idea how to do a 3-way switch.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They're not supposed to,
Yeah.
They call up their buddy next door, is a handyman. He comes over, fix it, or your local electrician. Ta-da. So these kind of things, at least if you're familiar with it, you could talk intelligently to your handyman, saying this is what happened. It's a 3-way switch, blah, blah, blah.
So that's at the Lindan Heights?
So that's at the Lindan Heights. The other one we're going to do is the chainsaw maintenance, how to actually sharpen a chainsaw properly so you get the best use out of that chain. Now, that doesn't make sense, sharpen it up and go. There's a little more to it than that. Also, how to set the spark plugs, how to know if that spark plug's bad, just those general things, because we're all going to be needing some type of heat source if we do have a grid down, and that's chainsaw is going to be extremely important.
Yeah, it is.
So we decided to do that.
Good stuff.
Emergency food buckets.
Oh.
We're going to show you how to put together emergency food buckets. Also give you a link on you can actually just purchase one.
Okay. All right.
So that's a lot of information.
That is.
And we're going to pack it into 3 hours. So, sign up now. Space is kind of limited. We can do about 20 to 30 people. So sign up. Sign up now.
All right. Love it. Good show. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Sustainable Living Made Easy with Glenn Ballblitz, the show that gives you helpful advice on how to live more independently. If you have a question for Glenn, you can text it 434-248-0704, or you can join our group on Facebook by searching for Sustainable Living Made Easy.